What's up, everybody? We're back. It is... What's it called again? Guess You Had to Be There. With me. Lee Service, that's me. That's my name. I've had it my whole life. And it's a unique name. Not a lot of people have it. I've never met another Lee Service. I've met only a handful of Lees, to be honest. And usually, they're L-E-I-G-H Lees. I don't know about you, but I don't like an L-E-I-G-H Lee. No, I'm kidding. They're fine. I'm sure they're fine people. But not a lot of L-E-E Lees. Dudes. Met a couple girl Lees. Not a lot of Lee dudes out there. It's an interesting thing. I have... It's not a super popular name when you think of it. Try and think of a famous actor, musician. There's like Lee. No, I'm blanking on the name. The musician Lee Hazelwood, Lee Greenwood, something like that. There's Lily Sobieski. That's a funny one because it's Lily. There's Lee Jeans, the Jean Company. Sometimes people buy me Lee Jean shirts, and it says Lee on it. And sometimes I like the shirt, but then I put it on, and I'm like, do I want to be walking around with my name on a shirt? It seems kind of weird. Nobody else is doing that. So there's that. Anyways, we're not going to talk about the name Lee for too long. That's not what it's going to be. There's a lot to talk about. I actually have quite a few things to talk about. Moving in line with what I've talked about on past Guess You Had to Be There episodes. This is episode number 3. And if you've been listening, thank you. Tell your friends about it. I think we can have a pretty good time here. I think once we start opening up some discussions, you start, maybe hit me in the comments and be like, I think you're wrong about the moon landing. I think that it is 100% real, and you have no reason to question it, and whatever. You can do that. You can hit me up and we can talk about it. I think it would be interesting to talk about these things. Because honestly, social media, Facebook specifically, I will say things that I don't necessarily believe as sort of a guide to see, not a guide. I'll say something and then I'll be like, I wonder what will come back. And like, people will disagree with me. Some people will agree with me. Some people will be angry about it. Some people will be like happy about it because they're like, I feel this way too. It's an interesting kind of game to play. To be like, I wonder what the rest of people on Facebook feel about this. And then you say it. You say something like, well, Artemis 2 was bogus. I don't think that was real. And then you find out pretty quick who is going to hate you for it, who's going to agree with you. I think a lot of people these days genuinely don't care. They're like, I don't care. I don't even care enough to even join the conversation. I mean, obviously, because like I mentioned before, I think the most viewers I noticed was like 250,000 during the Artemis 2 live stream, which is pretty crazy, you think. But anyways, we don't have to talk about that. I had a big weekend. Lots of sun. Oh my goodness, the sun. We did Hope Volleyball on Saturday. I gotta say, even though we're definitely on the older end of the Hope Volleyball participants, it is so much fun. It is such a good way to spend a Saturday playing beach volleyball. The court, our home court, was right on the beach, so we could swim between every game, and that's what we did. You know, you wear your bathing suit to play, and so the court. The only thing annoying about having the court right on the water is that when the ball goes out of bounds, it goes into the water and then it comes back in the sand and it gets all sandy, and then that's kind of annoying. But you know what? It's better than playing surrounded by other courts and constantly having the ball going into other people's courts, because that happens a lot too. It's a bit chaotic, but it's fun, you know? It's not the type of thing where if you were like a serious beach volleyball competitor, you probably wouldn't like it very much, because the amount of times the ball from the court next to you ends up in your court during your play. You know, it happens several times per game. So if you're pretty serious about it, you probably won't like that. But as far as like a fun way to spend a Saturday in the sun on the beach, playing beach volleyball, hanging out, you know, it's fun. And then they got the music at night. So I'm just trying to think if there's anything else I wanted to say about the volleyball part itself. It's just fun. There's different levels of competition. And I think there's 3 different levels. And I believe that we typically enter the sort of mid-level, because we're not looking to really compete out there. We're also not looking to not have any fun. So the middle of the road. And I think, I mean, unless you're aspiring to be a professional athlete or something like that, you know, or unless you only enjoy sports when it's really competitive, middle of the road is the way to go. It's the same with our softball league. It's like, it's not so relaxed that because if it's not competitive at all, it's not fun. If it's too competitive, it's also not fun, for me, in my opinion. So the middle of the road, it's a little bit competitive, but it's understood by most that the main objective is to have fun. There are some people in the league who it is their main objective to win, and it doesn't seem like they're having as much fun, because then if you lose, you're all pissed off that you lost. What kind of fun is that? That's not fun. There's honestly been games in our softball league where I left not even knowing if we won or lost, and not caring, because we had a good time out there. And I always say that, actually, that's something I like to say, is whoever, you know who wins? Whichever team had the most fun. They're the winners. That's how I like to see it. But what can I say? I'm an idealist. So whether it's softball or beach volleyball, we're just having fun. So Hope Volleyball, it was another success. This is my 3rd time in a row going to Hope Volleyball, and it's always super hot, and there's never a cloud in the sky, and there's no shade. But I will say this year wasn't too bad. I think it was maybe like 29 degrees Celsius with the humidity. So it was tolerable. And the water's there. And if you really look for it, you can find shade. So the musical guests for Hope Volleyball this year, I don't remember. There was a couple bands that played during the day. I think one was called the Ramblers or something. And then I don't remember the name of the other band. But they seemed to be doing sort of like a 2010 sort of indie rock kind of thing. It reminded me of the Interpol, Franz Ferdinand. You know that 2010-ish dancey indie rock type stuff. That's what I got the vibe of what they were doing. What else? And then that night was Chaos and USS. So, Chaos was supposed to go on at 3:30. Our last volleyball game was at 3:45. I chose, since we had subs, I wanted to see Chaos. I like Chaos. I wanted to watch them, so I said, "Go ahead, play without me. I'm gonna hang out and watch Chaos." And he definitely didn't go on at 3:30. He definitely came on a bit late, but it was an interesting performance. Now, Chaos has got to be, if he's not 50, he's got to be close. He's no spring chicken, okay? None of us are. Not unless, you're a child still, but I'm 44 years old. I'm not a young guy anymore. I'm not an old guy, but I'm not young. And neither is Chaos. And also, it's been a while since Chaos has had a big hit, or any hits for that matter. Which is weird how that happens. It seems like musicians have an era where they peak and they put out really good stuff, and then it just kind of fades from there, I think it's a combination of like a creative peak that happens with musicians combined with sort of the industry, the zeitgeist, if you will, where people are like, oh yeah, Chaos, he had hits in the early 2000s. It's 2026 now. We're done with it, maybe. I don't know. That doesn't really make sense, though, because you think of a band like Green Day. Green Day had Dookie in, what was that, 1994? Massive success. Then they had American Idiot in, 2001, 2002, somewhere around there? Massive success. And they're still having a good time. So maybe I don't know what I'm talking about, but I do. But to be honest, I haven't been a fan of anything from Green Day since probably what's the one with Hitchin' a Ride? Can't remember the name now. But yeah, I know that American Idiot was a massive success, but to be honest, it didn't really resonate with me. I liked I Walk Alone, that song. The first couple times I heard it, I was like, I really like that song. And then I heard it about 4 billion more times, and then I was like, I don't like that song anymore. So the radio can do that. The radio can kill songs that you like. But the Chaos performance was interesting. And I was before that night, I was wondering about what the setup was going to be, because he's a hip hop artist. He doesn't really play, and he plays guitar a little bit. He raps and he sings. He's actually quite a good singer, and obviously a good rapper. But so typically when you see a hip hop group or whatever, in my experience, they're usually playing to a tape. And by a tape, I mean backing tracks. And that's what it was. But it was backing tracks. So basically it's their wave file. The sound man is also DJ. He's playing the set through the speakers, and Chaos has the microphone, and what I don't like about it is that it's basically karaoke. It's like doing karaoke to your own stuff. And I think it would have been pretty sweet if he even had a small band, like a drummer, a bass player, a guitarist. And even if a lot of the stuff from his songs was left out because in order to keep it small, because his tracks are big productions, right? Those are big studio productions. You would need a lot of moving parts on that stage to make that happen live and sound the way it sounds on the radio. But I would happily sacrifice. I'd be like, okay, give me a drummer, a bass guitarist, and a guitarist, and just sort of improvise, like do the best you can, or even mess it up a bit. I don't mean mess it up as in make mistakes. I mean like mess with it. Take some liberties with it. Switch it up a bit. You're still going to recognize the song. If he's going every day is Saturday night, but I can't wait for Sunday morning, you're going to know what the song is. Doesn't matter if the track is different. So that's what I was wishing for, but that's not what I got. What I got was I got to see Chaos, so that's cool. But he was performing to a track, with the exception of this young looking kid playing like a Flying V Gibson guitar. Which honestly, I don't know. I could have done without, I think. Like, it's just kind of weird. Because like I said, Chaos has got to be 50. This kid looked like he was 23, early 20s. Maybe he was older. Point is, this isn't a guy that it just seemed like, I don't know. It seemed like an executive decision or something. Like someone was like, hey, my son plays the guitar and wears tight pants and Chuck Taylors. He could accompany you. I don't know. It just seemed like a weird combo to have this dude rapping and then like just this like scrawny white kid playing this Flying V. And he did quite a few covers of songs that I was like, really? And I don't know the names of songs ever, so. But he played the hits. He messed around a lot, like you would hear the beat drop for a song that you recognize, One of my favorite Chaos tunes. I tried it, I couldn't fight it. Na 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 na. That song, for example, the beat drops, everyone goes, woo! And then he goes, I don't want to play that song. And then he went into like came back with the same beat but it went into like a cover song, and then he transitioned from that song into that song. He did that a couple times. There was a lot going on the backing tracks, a lot of backup vocals. It was cool to see him. Was he giving 100%? No. Was he intoxicated? Yeah. He usually is, from my experience. When I lived in Toronto, I was actually in a Chaos music video. There's a video for the song called Born to Run. If you check out the Chaos music video for Born to Run, you will see a tall glass of water wearing a white lab coat, looking like some kind of scientist or something, with a film, like what do they call it? Like an 8mm film thing, the one that you hold on your shoulder, and yeah. Anyways, so I have a bit of I used to see this guy around when I lived in Toronto, and he likes his wobbly pops. Okay. He likes a little of Grandpa's cough syrup. Okay. He does. And it was a little bit evident, but his rhymes were tight. They were on. His singing was good. He just, like I said, was he giving 100%? No. Is he phoning it in because he's 50 years old and he probably collected a pretty decent paycheck for doing this, especially for, like, what did he pay that kid with the guitar? $100? Or who knows? He might have even just done it for high fives. So I'm not mad at it. Friends of mine thought it was terrible. I see it, and if you're not a fan of Chaos and you don't really know who he is, and you're just kind of there to be entertained, then I could see it as being a bit of a fail. But he looked like he was having fun. And I don't know, I just think he's a real artist, and there's not a lot of those, especially these days. There's not a lot of real artists anymore, and to me, he's one of them. And I like him, and I sort of can identify with his situation maybe a little bit, because I know what it's like to play songs that you wrote 20 years ago and you don't necessarily want to be singing them, but people want to hear them. And there's something about it that people don't get. And I understand both sides, because it's like, hey man, come on. Everyone wants to hear your hits. We're here because we love your songs, the ones they play on the radio. So let's hear them. Stop being a baby and play the songs that we want to hear. And he did, by the way. The only one I wanted to hear from him that I didn't hear was his first single from his first album, Heaven Only Knows. Heaven only knows. Na 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 na. Spent so many days sitting on a cloud. But do I understand why he didn't want to play that song from 26 years ago? Yeah, I do. Because just this past Christmas, I performed songs from even longer ago than that. And it's tough, I love those songs. I love my old band, Far From Heroes. but it's a bit painful to do those songs. And it's something that obviously people don't get. It's like, as an artist, you tend to move on from things pretty quickly. It's when you're focused on creativity, constantly creating new things, to feel like you're stuck in this place of having to revert to this old stuff from 30 years ago that you don't identify with anymore because you were literally a different person at the time. Also, you were much younger and full of energy, and you were able to, there was way more aggression behind it, and you had a higher singing register. And yeah, that last Far From Heroes show that we did, I can't even imagine. I haven't, it was filmed, and there was an audio recording, I'm pretty sure, and it was filmed, and I haven't heard or seen anything about it, and I'm assuming it's because the vocals were so horrendous that it would be embarrassing to show anyone. That's what I'm assuming, because yeah, it's I don't know how people do it. There are some people who can night after night go out there and belt and hit those notes and do it in a way where they don't lose their voice. I'm guessing, well, you know what? If I had to do it full time and I was training and warming up and changing up my technique so that I don't lose my voice and doing all those things, I could probably find a place. Like, yeah, Mike Carrera from MXPX is a good example. He's a guy who has changed the way he sings. You can hear it. He doesn't have that rasp in his voice from the earlier albums. Whether or not which one you like better, that's comes down to your own preference. But what I can say is that he sings in a way now that he doesn't lose his voice, and he's a good singer. And you can tell how people get sick of their old songs, because if you see MXPX live, especially the songs that it's like the longer they've been playing the songs, the more he's messing with them. He'll do, like, he won't even touch the melody. He'll let the crowd sing the melody, and he'll be doing harmonies for like the whole tune, basically, or little counter stuff. And Chaos was kind of doing similar things. But also that, like, so I would say his biggest hit is that every day is Saturday night, but I can't wait. And that song is not in the key that I just sang it in. It's up. It's high, because when he broke into it, he kind of did like the old, held the microphone out to the crowd, and it was pretty feeble, because I think a lot of people went for it and they were like, oh gosh, that's, it's not one of those songs that's comfortably in the key of the people, like everybody can go Sweet Caroline, ba ba ba, because it's in a comfortable range. But when it's like every day is Saturday night, but I can't wait for Sunday morning, like you're reaching, and these aren't singers, these are just people. And so my point is, he didn't even touch that chorus. He was like, he pretty much did the verses, and he let the crowd, because he actually stopped, because it was feeble. He went, hang on, he stopped the track. He goes, I'm not singing this chorus. I'm old. So you guys have to bring it. And then, so it was pretty cool. It wasn't a huge crowd, which is too bad. And you like, I didn't feel bad for them, but that would suck. It would suck to have like a heyday where, because there was a time, like when that song was popping, if Hope Volleyball was a thing at the time when that song was popping, it would have been, hey, you know what? It would have been chaos. Oh, did you see what I did right there? It would have been nuts. It would have been full, you know, like, it would have been like Glorious Sons last year, but probably even bigger. Hard to say. So it's a weird thing to, you know, because he's aware that he's no longer in his era, you know, like I think he knows that his time has kind of come and gone, but I think he does a lot of different stuff now. I think he seems to do like a lot of collaborations with other artists, and I mean, I'm not saying he probably has an amazing life, you know what I mean? He probably gets to do whatever he wants, and so yeah, so it was an interesting performance. There was a lot to read into for me. I was also a little bit stoned. I did smoke a little bit of the hippie lettuce before chaos. That's what I did. I hadn't, and I mentioned that I was going to do that, and I hadn't. It had been a whole week, which is a good stretch for me. And you know what? After being in the sun all day long, and then smoking that one joint, and then having one Arizona hard iced tea, I was pooched, ready for bed. Like, I wasn't messed up. I wasn't like, oh, I'm so drunk and high. I wasn't. I was just ready for bed. I realized I would have felt better if I would have just raw dogged it. So I don't know. Yeah, it seems like the less that I smoke the weed, the less fun it is. And I think I talked about this in a past episode, where it's like, if you don't smoke kind of all the time, it kind of hits you harder when you do. And then it's sort of less fun, because it's all those reasons that people say that they don't like smoking weed kind of pop up. It's like, no, I don't really get the paranoia, but it was almost like a little bit too much. Like, well, maybe you could tell from my analysis of the Chaos show, instead of just standing there and enjoying it, I was having all of those thoughts that I just expressed, and many more. So, but he's cool. He's a cool dude. It was good to see him. I love his music. Not a lot of Canadian rappers, I'm gonna say, that have kind of broken through the way that he did. So he's a bit of a legend. Something I thought was funny was, so at Hope Volleyball, there's a lot of promotional stuff that goes on, where they have like sort of tents where you go and you do like a beanbag toss, and if you get it in the hole, you get 88.5 radio station sunglasses, or you spin a wheel and you can win a frisbee or a sombrero from Lone Star. Or there's another beanbag toss where you get like a beach ball, and there's lots of beach balls. Everybody gets a beach ball. And for an outdoor music festival type of thing, that's perfect, right? For as long as I can remember, outdoor music, there's beach balls being bumped around by the crowd. They eventually make their way onto the stage, and then the whoever it comes to on the stage gets to boot the beach ball back into the crowd while they're playing. I remember I got to do that once playing, and it feels like, and it's something you've seen happen before. You've seen it on TV as a kid watching like an Edgefest performance on Much Music, and you see the beach balls and the band is playing and the beach ball comes on the stage and they kick it back into the crowd, and the crowd is there. It's fun. The beach balls for the outdoor music. I've expressed that I don't like music festivals. There's too many people. The sound sucks outside. There's always two bands playing separate stages at the same time. You have to choose one of them. I don't like music festivals. But one thing I do like about the music festival is the beach balls. It's fun to bounce around the beach balls while the band is playing. And I was standing close to the stage on the left side because I found a little slice of shade that I got in there. And there was a security guard there, and he seemed cool. I was joking around with him about how he should be renting, because there was this little sliver of shade. And I was like, man, you could be renting this property out to people. And he seemed cool. But then anytime a beach ball would come over the little barricade area into the stage area, or if someone on the stage went to kick the beach ball or whatever and it didn't make it back into the crowd, he would take the beach balls and go around the corner and put them behind the stage and then came back out. And he did that with like 5 or 6 beach balls, to the point where there was no more beach balls being bounced around while the music was happening. And so I was like, dude, what are you doing with the beach balls? He goes, they're really annoying, and they're hitting people in the head, and people get annoyed by them. And I'm like, for real? I said, everyone seemed to be having a good time with those beach balls. Like, that's part of the music festival experience. And then he goes, well, for every person who likes them, there's 5 that hate it. That's what he said. And I just kind of went, okay, buddy. And I walked away, but I wanted to be like, did you do a poll? Did you poll the audience before the music started? Do you enjoy beach ball bouncing during the music? No, you didn't. You're just making some stupid assumption based on nothing because you're grumpy. So anyways, out of nowhere, this other beach ball emerges. It ends up at my feet. So I pick it up, I look at the security guard, we make eye contact for a second, and then I throw it in the air and I smack it into the center of the crowd. And then the security guard and I stand side by side, and we watch this beach ball get bumped around like a popcorn kernel. There's kids are getting it. It goes onto the stage. It comes back out into the crowd. You could literally feel if there was a funometer, it was rising. The gauge on the funometer was rising due to that one beach ball. And I turned to him and I was like, I forget exactly what I said, but I was like, I said, it looks like they're having a pretty good time with that beach ball. And he didn't say anything. And then I said, I think I said something like, come on, man, do the right thing. Go get those beach balls from behind the stage. Bring them out here. but he didn't do it. He didn't do it. I don't know. He doesn't like fun. Or maybe he had orders from his bosses to confiscate beach balls because someone could get hurt, because that is sort of the society that we live in these days, where you could get hurt by a beach ball. You can't just have beach balls bouncing around willy-nilly out there. Someone's going to get injured. Oh my goodness. What if the little nipple part where you blow it up is popping? It's supposed to be pushed in, but what if it's sticking out like an outie and it hits someone in the eyeball? That could damage someone's cornea. Oh man. So that's just like, that made me upset momentarily. It didn't ruin my night, but I was like, that's ridiculous. Anyways, so Chaos played, let's say, from 4 to 4:40 or something like that, 4:30. The headliner was USS. USS, similar to Chaos, I believe, although they still get quite a bit of play. I think they probably get more play than Chaos does these days. But I think their sort of time was a bit after Chaos's time was, so maybe they're a little bit more relevant. And like I said, I know those guys. I don't know them personally, but I have met them before. I opened for them a couple times back when I used to play sort of an acoustic duo with my friend Mike. And they're a decent band. Like they've got quite a few hits that you hear on the radio. But again, with the backing track, like they at least had a drummer. So they have a drummer, and then they have the main guy who plays guitar and sings. He plays an acoustic guitar and sings. They have the drummer, and then they have this other guy who was wearing a cape, and he had turntables. And I don't know, man. Here's the thing about turntables. If we're talking about scratching vinyl, I can get into that a little bit. It's kind of cool. Sometimes I feel like it has a place and a time. It can be pretty cool if you check it. It's kind of a lost art form, I think. Obviously, some people are still super into it. But if you check out like vinyl, I don't even know what to call it. I guess it'd be like DJing, like vinyl DJing, scratching. Where they'll scratch and skip and repeat certain parts, and they'll slow it down and make those like breakbeat parts and stuff like that. At the origins of hip hop, that was closely knit with early hip hop. Was always 2 turntables and a microphone, and you would have a guy playing like some old funk records or something like that. And he would speed it up or slow it down or make it skip, and you'd have some guys rapping over it, and sometimes they would use like a melody or a hook from a previous song or whatever. And that's cool. I can get into that. But when you have just like those digital turntables and you're just making a digital track skip, I don't find that cool. I don't think it sounds good. I'm not into it at all. when I opened for USS years ago, that guy, the guy with the cape, actually had this thing. It was ridiculous. It was shaped like a guitar, but it was like the round scratch part was in the middle, and then he had like buttons on it. And there was a part of the show where he would just like jump around and go ape shit with his scratchy button guitar thing. And I think if you're the type of music fan that doesn't really know what's happening, you might think that's cool, maybe, if you just, if you're just there for the show. But even then, I was like, is that thing even plugged in to anything? Like, is this just 100% a novelty thing? And it must have been, because it seems like even he has given up on it. Now he's just back to the turntables. I don't know what he does for, like, to have 3 guys on stage, a drummer, a guy playing guitar and singing, and then a guy jumping around in a cape making the skippy sounds sometimes. Like, get rid of that guy and bring in like a live bass player and have less tracks. I think my main takeaway from the live music at the Hope Volleyball, was that there's too many pre-recorded tracks. Like, this is supposed to be live music, right? Isn't that the point of live music when you go see a band live? Is that it's supposed to be live? Like, at what point is it karaoke? Yeah, I know it's your song, you wrote it. But when the majority of the sounds you're hearing are pre-recorded and coming through the system, and you just have some guys kind of jumping around on stage, just sort of there for the visual and not to say that they, like, for USS, you could hear the drums, not as loud as the pre-recorded drums, because there were times where I'd be listening and you could hear the hi-hat on the drum kit, loudest thing in the mix. You hear this hi-hat, and you look at the drummer and he's playing on the ride, and you don't hear a ride. So it's like, he doesn't really need to be there. Yeah, I don't know. At what point are we just doing karaoke? So it makes me kind of sad to think that, like, is this where we're at with live music in Canada? And is it like this everywhere? Probably not. But I don't know. Yeah, it was a little bit meh. I'd rather see a rock band that I don't even care for, that are playing their instruments, than hear people just play their pre-recorded music and play along to it. It just seems like a cop-out to me. But maybe that's just me. So yeah. I got home that night after spending all day in the sun, and I passed out so fast that I don't know. I passed out. Usually it's crazy for me because I have a hard time sleeping. So on the rare occasion that my head hits the pillow and I'm just out is a real treat for me. Love that. Don't have to put all that work into it, you know? It was a full weekend of sun. So that was Saturday, and then Sunday, it was our friend's birthday party in the city, and we paddle boarded down part of the Ottawa River, and that was really fun too. But point is, a lot of sun. That sun especially as a Canadian guy who most of the year we're hiding inside and not getting a lot of sun. To spend a whole weekend and just get hours of direct sun is pretty intense. I was feeling pretty sunned out today. So yeah, that was my weekend. The Hope Volleyball. I hope something happens with music. I hope music becomes cool again. I was listening to Alan Cross talk about sort of the how punk started in the 1970s, and he was explaining how how everything was just like so safe and sort of sterile, and like 70s summer breeze makes me feel fine, all very like hippy dippy and all really smooth and safe, and it was like punk was the answer to that. It was like, no, we don't, that might be fine for some of y'all, but some of us want to get a bit wild. Some of us want to rock out. Some of us like music to be fast and dirty and unpredictable. And I feel like that's where we are now. I feel like, and I know with the internet, there's everything. It's all out there. But it's definitely not, doesn't seem to be making its way into the mainstream, if you will. But I would love to see that. I've heard that kids are starting to start bands and stuff like that again, which is sick. I hope that happens. Because nothing makes me more sad than the fact that punk shows don't happen anymore. The all ages punk show, hundreds of kids hanging out in a Knights of Columbus parking lot, and then like 9 loud, fast bands playing, and people puking on stage, and just all kinds of wild stuff. And it doesn't seem to happen anymore. I see kids leaving high school, walking out of high school as I drive home from work, and they're all wearing sweatpants and Crocs, and they're just staring at their phones. And then they go home and probably, I don't know what they do, hang out on their phones. Doesn't look like they're going to play in their garage band or going to the punk show. And I'm not saying everybody has to be into punk, but do something real. Do something real. Put your phone down. Pick up an instrument. Anything. Anything is better than sitting on your phone. Grab a deck of cards. Get good at shuffling cards and play solitaire if you just want to sit. But yeah, I don't know. I hope that Hope Volleyball wasn't an indication of music right now, because if it is, then that's a bummer. But I feel like it kind of is. There's like sort of has-beens phoning it in a little bit. I wouldn't want to say that about Chaos, because I think he's cool. I think he's a legend. And I respect the guy. I think was having fun, and it's not something he has to do. And I doubt even though it was a good paycheck probably for him to do that, it's not like it is going to change his life, really. I think he mostly did it because he knows that there are people who still want to see him. And that's cool. And they want to hear those songs and see him rap. So, yeah. But that's about it, I guess. Probably not going to smoke weed again for a while. I'm enjoying the clarity that I'm having without it. And if I do it again, it's probably not going to be at sort of like a public event like that. I think I'd probably enjoy it more if I was just kind of hanging out at home, having a fire outside or something like that. Or maybe I just don't need to have it. There's that too. I don't know why I keep thinking like, oh, well, I got to make room for it somehow, you know? Like maybe I'm just done with it. Maybe I'm done with weed. Maybe I'm at that point in my life. I don't need to be Willie Nelson, you know? I don't need to be smoking weed when I'm an old man. Although I do kind of want to do Tai Chi because Willie Nelson does Tai Chi and apparently it's good for you. So maybe we'll try that out. In any case, I think that's it. I think that's another episode of Guess You Had to Be There. Hope you enjoyed it. I probably went pretty deep into the chaos performance, but I had a lot of thoughts about it. So, and this is what it is. You get what you get and you don't get upset. So that's it. We'll see you next time. Bye.